Hi, welcome to another episode of MYD Global. I'm your host, Leanne Hackman-Carty. Have you ever wondered what a microgrid is and how it works? Well, today I'm talking to AJ Perkins, who's the president of DR Microgrid in California. As a native Hawaiian, he has a good background in this area, and he's been working a long time to figure out how to help communities and businesses and individuals back up their utility network when things might go wrong. So stay tuned as I talk to AJ and learn more about his solution and microgrids in particular. Hi AJ, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good. Well, thanks for taking the time to educate the audience a little bit about microgrids and nanogrids. Before we get started, maybe just tell us a little bit about your background, what you've done in the past and what you're doing today.
Sure. I was born and raised in Hawaii, so when we talk about resiliency, I actually make this comment often. In the islands, we actually don't have a Hawaiian word for sustainability because it's really life. It's that's what it is for us, right? You got to take care of the land, take care of the people, take care of each other. So it's really a lifestyle for us. So especially when you grow up in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, 2,500 miles away from the next landmass, you really need to work hard to take care of everything around you, right? So it was definitely a great life for me growing up. Our family goes back, to the kings and queens. So it's really a part of who we are as a people, right? Now you move me into California. My background is in business. It's not in energy. So when I came to California, I saw, a lot of the many opportunities surrounding energy, good and bad, the challenges associated with it as well as the opportunities. And that's where I decided to really take a dive into it. And I about 4 or 5 years ago, I decided to jump in and start, really at the ground, just really saying, okay, how do I learn about the industry? I mean, even to the point where I'm in people's homes, talking to them about what their problems are. I was dealing with, commercial and industrial clients and, working with Lockheed Martin Energy. And, we were the number one aggregator for Lockheed Martin Energy, in some of their programs. And you talk about fast track education, that was it. So it was really good because we had a lot of really interesting customers that presented some really solvable problems. But it was, the industry is there's a lot of smart people with legacy, roots in the actual industry. And sometimes it feels almost as if this is just the way it's supposed to be done. But with technology and things evolving and changing, it for an outsider coming in and asking the questions, why is that? It really started to shake, the tree a lot. And, our customers really helped drive the solutions. So, I was fast tracked, like I said, into this space of energy. I have become a speaker at many conferences and conventions all around the country. I'm constantly asked, to be coming in as a subject matter expert, whether it's from the utility space or from companies or from industries. And it's really been a good learning opportunity. But I think it all comes back down to the fact that when you walk in with an open mind and you ask the right questions, why? Why not? How can we make this better? It creates people, trying to figure out different and better solutions.
Now that you're in California, I know that you're doing a lot of work in the microgrid area. So can you just explain what exactly a microgrid and I don't know if it's the same as a nanogrid, but if you can kind of explain the concepts?
Sure. So, for me, I'm a simple person. I'm a Hawaiian, right? So when I think about what a microgrid is, I don't like to get into the whole technical details. Really, it's generation, being able to have something that generates power, say like solar, combined with something that stores power, like energy storage or batteries, and that has something that controls it all. So that if the power ever shuts off from the main grid, you can still operate in what they call island mode. And that's really what defines the ability to have a microgrid. Its ability to generate power, store power, and if you ever get cut off, you still can continue to keep the ice cream cold. Primarily, when we first started bringing microgrids to businesses, it really was for resiliency. When we worked with it was a biomedical facility in San Diego, they had diesel generators as backup. And they're like, AJ, we've been doing cancer research for 25 years. We can't have a shut off. So, their diesel generators weren't giving them the comfort that they needed. So that's where they're upgrading the facility to put solar and batteries and controls to be able to give them the constant power that they need. Some of the power needs were also up and down, where they would get these brownouts. People talk about blackouts, but we also got to look at brownouts where you've got these surges of power. We worked with an auto manufacturer, and they said anytime they had a brownout, all of their equipment down in the basement would explode, basically. So they would have to replace all this new equipment because there was a surge of power that came through. So to give them this consistent, reliable, and resilient power was what it was. But what we have since done is we've actually taken the microgrid and created a revenue source from it. Because most people think of microgrids as being utilized in times of emergency, when there's a blackout, right? We've actually used it in times of need, in that when the utility needs power, say a demand response event, when everybody's AC is on in the middle of summer, and they ask us to shut off equipment so that we can earn revenue from it. Instead of shutting off air conditioners and lights, I just take my microgrid and island the building. So it is unique, but it creates a better opportunity for the utility, and definitely a better opportunity for the business owner as well.
So when you're promoting these, when you're going out and selling this kind of solution, where are you thinking the best bang for your buck or the best potential is going to be for microgrids? Is it on an island? Is it anywhere? Like where? I'm just curious as to where you see the ideal market for this kind of solution.
So it's funny because the conversation that you're having is really different than what a lot of other people have, in that we first started out with resiliency and the thought about emergency and things like that. And the one thing that people, are looking at now in this day and age with COVID, stay-at-home orders, all of these things. I mean, I've got families running multi-million-dollar companies out of their home. Right? So if the power shuts off, because we've got wildfires right now. I mean, just last night, they're talking about a fire off the 405 that's scorching 30 acres and all this stuff. So the utilities in California now have the ability to shut off the power to stop the spread of wildfires. If they shut off the power in the grid and you don't have a microgrid or a nanogrid on your home, you're dead in the water. Your multi-million-dollar company could be at risk because you don't have power. So when we talk about where is it opportunistic to put microgrids, before it was Hawaii, California, and it's not because Hawaii is on an island, but it's because the power is so expensive, right? So people would look at it and say, oh, the microgrid can save me money. Well, nowadays, it's not so much about saving me money on my utility bill, it's about saving my business. What is the cost or price of resiliency? What is the cost or price of being able to make sure that my manufacturing facility can keep operating, my office building can keep operating, my business, my home? If I have a mom that is in my home and she's on a breathing machine and the power gets off, the price is absolutely undefinable to be able to keep that breathing machine on. So the conversation is definitely changing now, because before all we looked at was California and Hawaii. That's it, because that's the most expensive. They got the biggest incentives. The people are much more progressive. But nowadays, cost of life is so much more. Cost of business is so much more. Resiliency is really, now we need to quantify and monetize what this means to us to be on at all times.
COVID has really kind of highlighted that. It couldn't have done it better, because when you think about it, just telling people you should be more prepared. You should think about redundancies. If this happens, what happens here? What's your plan? Most people, they said, you know what, I'll think about that tomorrow.
Right.
But now it's kind of right in your face, and you have to think about it. you know. And so if you do want to be sustainable, you want to think about that continuity piece, this is something that should be, you know, one of the solutions you're considering as far as how do I maintain connectivity and continue to do business. You're right, the health piece, if you're on a ventilator, anything that relies on electricity. As far as, you know, before we wrap up, is there anything else I might not have mentioned that you wanna talk about?
You know, I think, you know, LBNL, the Lawrence Berkeley National Labs, did a white paper on nanogrids. And, you know, nanogrids, in my simple definition, a nanogrid is a smaller microgrid. But when you read the paper, it's not necessarily true. They go into a little bit deeper touch points on what makes a nanogrid. But for all intents and purposes, let's say that a nanogrid is a microgrid on a home. Okay, you know, it's a smaller set of pieces that come together. And I mean, and again, for the sake of this conversation, let's look at that. One of the things that was talked about in this paper, and I truly believe this, is that microgrids are starting to take hold in the country. They're not new. Microgrids have been around for a long time, you know, but they've been really dedicated for hospitals, school campuses, business campuses, and whatnot. But when I think about the need to blanket the United States with as many microgrids or nanogrids, this autonomous opportunity. Now, I'm not trying to say get off the grid. I'm trying to say be prepared. You know, stop counting on just the utility to keep the power on. I mean, come on, you got to take responsibility, you know? So now it's a matter of nanogrids is the biggest and best opportunity for this to spread. Because if each, you know, right now, if we depend on our large corporation to spend millions upon millions of dollars to put a microgrid on a factory, on a facility, that's a hard nut to swallow. It really is. But if I go ahead and take the responsibility to say, I got to protect my family, and I'm going to make the investment, instead of just putting solar is not the solution anymore. It really isn't. You know, sun is up for this many hours of the day, right? So we need to create an opportunity to protect our family. So if everybody takes the responsibility to say, I'm going to protect my family, I'm going to make the investment and do this, or I'm going to tell my neighbor and my neighbor and my neighbor, it starts to spread where it's not a matter of trying to just save money. I'm protecting my family, my community, everything about what we are. And I think that's the thing that we need to do. So for me, I don't care whether you use me or somebody else, just make sure you get it done. This is something where everybody needs to lock arms and say, how do we protect our families and our communities and our businesses?
I'm going to put a link to your website in the video so people can learn out more about microgrids, the work you're doing. And thank you for taking the time today to speak with me, and best of luck.
You're welcome, Leanne. Thank you so much. Take care. Aloha.
Okay. Bye-bye.